over the last 6 years, I went from struggling to make any money, let alone have an actual business, to generating multiple six figures for myself and clients through the creator economy. And at the same time, I was able to travel and see the world. There's a lot of hardship that I went through, and I've learned what works. So there's no gimmicks here. There's no overnight success or anything, just real lessons, and hopefully it saves you some time. The first thing is, you don't need more stuff. You just need to start. Funnily enough, the camera that I'm recording this on is the same camera that I was using 6 years ago when I had absolutely no business, no audience on the internet, and I thought to myself, I need to get a new camera in order to succeed. Well, here we are 6 years later. I just haven't bothered buying a new camera because guess what? It wasn't necessary. The idea that a certain camera is going to allow you to have a certain income is silly. The idea that certain information is going to suddenly be the magic solution to all of your problems, it's not true. The best thing that you can do is to just start doing something, because I can promise you it's not your camera and it's not the information that you have that's holding you back at the early stages of beginning something. So just take whatever you have and just start with it. Number two, it's okay to fail, but only if you are willing to reflect. It's so easy with the world of social media to create something, put it on the internet, and then have it flop and then get upset at the algorithm and say that everything is everyone's fault but your own. That's what I did. Let's say I put up a video and it's a complete bomb. Rather than getting super annoyed, which I still do, I reflect upon why it failed. What were the things that are within my control that I can improve on next time? Can I do a better title? Can I do a better thumbnail? Was it just a bad topic? These are all questions that it's important to have the humility to ask yourself, because when you do, then you're going to be able to level up and improve going forward so that you fail less, or at least your future failures are going to be more valuable than your previous successes were. When shit hits the fan, do the next best thing. My main business a few years ago was a content agency where I would create ads for businesses. And this one client I had was one of my bigger clients at the time, and I had a pretty big project for them. It was the highest income project I'd ever done up until that point. And it required me to invest quite a bit of money up front. I had to invest a few €1,000 into insurance, into a location, and I had to book all of these actors, and they all had to be there at the same time. I did my best to communicate with everyone so that everybody knew where to be, and that if there was an issue, they could let me know so I could fix it early on. And unfortunately, the main actor for this production decided to text me 24 hours before the shoot saying he just didn't want to come anymore. And in that moment, I totally went into fight or flight. And I thought about just quitting everything and just going and living with my parents forever and sleeping. That is an approach that you could take. But what I found to be more powerful is doing the next best thing, whatever that might be. Now, for me, the next best thing was to ask another actor if they would be able to help me out. And it was a long shot because, it was the next day. And it was a really long script that this actor had to learn. But I did the next best thing, and I found this one actor. I sent him a message on Instagram of all places because I didn't even have his phone number. And sure enough, he got back to me and he agreed to do the shoot. We did the shoot. Everything was fine. And I cleaned up the mess that was in front of me rather than just giving up. And that was a huge lesson for me because it made me realize that all you have to do is take the next step. The story doesn't end until you die. And so you have the ability to shape it how you want. So do the next best thing. Even if you're not confident if it's going to work out, just do it anyway because you don't know what's going to unfold from it. Number 4, the business is not broken. You are. Business is quite simple in its essence, and it always has been. If you think way back in the day, you had someone who had the skill of baking. So they would bake a loaf of sourdough bread. That is now the product. So the skill creates a product or a service. And then you need to distribute that product or service to someone else. So you could knock on someone's door and say, hello, I have a loaf of bread. Would you like to purchase it? If that person has the problem, which is that they're hungry and in need of a loaf of bread, then you have created value for that person. They will give you money or blueberries or whatever. And that is fundamentally what business is. So with that in mind, if you're trying some sort of approach to business and it's not working and you say the business is the problem, well, it's actually not, because business is just simple cause and effect. You do a thing, someone gives you something for the thing, and then you have money. Now, There's so many videos online of people sharing how to do this, how to make this much money, yet so few people actually do it. And it's so easy to say that the business model is the problem, or that it's saturated, or this or that. But ultimately, it just means you haven't found a way to creatively bring your skill set and your unique qualities and characteristics into that paradigm. And so when you find a way to do that, to identify the value that you have, identify your loaf of bread, identify someone who needs it, and then just find a way to get it to them. That is how you fix the business, so to speak. But it starts with fixing yourself, fixing your mindset, understanding your skill set and your limitations. And if you can do this, it will bring you so far in this whole game. Number 5, seek mentorship from people that expand your thinking. If you're surrounded by people who, let's say, are living a certain way and you're trying to live a different way, it's going to be very difficult for you to live a different way than the people that you're surrounded with. Not because they're bad people or anything, but simply you're going to end up becoming the average of that group effectively. So it's important that you start connecting with people that are doing different things that you want to be doing, because then you can learn from them, you can ask them questions. Mentorship is vital because it allows you to break through ceilings, because you see what's possible. Think of yourself when you're lifting weights or running long distances. If you run a long distance, if you lift a heavy weight, you now believe it's possible. And mentorship is a kind of a way for you to witness the possibility that could be yours if you take the correct action. So surround yourself with people that are doing what you want to do, that are a step ahead of you, so that you can learn and you can absorb that, and then you can reflect that and create that in the world yourself. Stop trying to be busy, just get shit done. Early on, I would log into my email, see that there was no emails. Maybe I would send a few cold emails. Honestly, this period of my business a few years back, I didn't make any money, and I was the busiest I'd ever been. I was looking busy. I was getting envelopes in the door for my business that had made no money. It was just like whatever tax documents or something like this that never ended up getting used. My business right now is very simple. Pretty much all I do, I create content once a week or so. I create a newsletter, and I have one offer where I coach people. I also do a few other consulting and production things too, but my days are pretty quiet. There's not a whole lot to do because I have these high leverage systems in place. So it's not about being busy and doing lots of stuff, but it's about just doing the right thing. So identify what are the most important high leverage tasks that you could do for your next objective, and just do that. Number 7, ask people questions. This is a real shortcut to leveling up, because you never know how a certain answer to a certain question might drastically impact the whole trajectory of your life. Not to mention, asking people questions, being curious, is just a wonderful way to build relationships and to learn more. Now, I love meeting with anyone really in any industry. If an accountant came up to me, I love just asking questions about this and that, because I honestly don't know, and I just find it really interesting how there's so many people that have a whole world of their own that I don't know anything about, and there might be a little sum in there that I can take and apply to my life. You know, one time I asked a fellow videographer, what's your rate? And he told me his rate, and I was shocked. And from that one question, I 4x my rate and made a hell of a lot more money. If I didn't have the courage to ask that question, then I might never have made that leap to a higher income ceiling. Number 8, ignore the masses, but don't ignore what works. You don't need to get up at 4 a.m. You don't need to get up at 3 a.m. You don't even need to get up at 8 a.m. if you don't want to. Do what works for you, but also don't ignore what works. Things like routines, morning routines, this routine, that routine, they're all quite trivial in my opinion, because honestly, I got up at 9 o'clock this morning, and I've always been a bit of a late night person, so I tend to just get up later in the day, and that works for me. I've also gotten up really early, and my life was in shambles at the time. So the point here is that there's no magical routine or formula that's gonna like fix your life. However, there are proven things that work. So for example, with YouTube, you know, you got to pay attention to the copywriting, to your titles, to your thumbnails, to, you know, the structure of your videos. These are things that are proven to work, and we ought not to neglect them. And I used to neglect it. Let me tell you, I neglected YouTube for a long time, and I'll get onto that in a moment. But once I actually started to observe what worked and practice that, everything changed for me. Number 9, realize when to pivot. So as I said, I used to ignore the best practices on YouTube for a long time. I think it was about 3 years I was creating content on YouTube, and nobody really watched the videos, and I was terrified to like try a different strategy because I had like, I think 200 subscribers or something, and I didn't want to lose those subscribers and start a new channel. But in the end, I was getting so few views on those videos that I just said, I have literally nothing to lose. These videos are getting like 7 views, and I started a new channel, and pretty much within a few months that channel started to take off. What I learned from that was, don't be afraid to pivot. Like when you put in enough effort to get enough data to realize, okay, this isn't working, it's okay to pivot. And in fact, the longer you delay that, the more pain you're going to experience, and inevitably you're going to have to pivot anyway. Number 10, you can't help everybody. Be specific. I'm not necessarily saying that you have to be someone who just makes videos about Microsoft Excel and that's all you ever do until you die. However, when it comes to an offer, so the offer is the thing that you sell off the back of your audience creation journey, let's say. So the offer needs to be specific. And for the longest time, I was trying to serve everybody with my offer, with like a general coaching offer, general this, that. And ultimately, that wasn't sustainable for me. But what was sustainable was identifying a specific group of people within my audience and a specific problem that they had and a specific solution to that. And when I did that, I made more money in 1 month than I had in the previous year. I know it's scary to be specific because you feel like you're leaving other people out, because truly when you speak to a specific group, you're causing more impact for them, and everyone else still gets to enjoy your videos or your posts or whatever. So it's just for the offer that specificity is really important. So I go through a whole process to actually identify and create a profitable offer, and I have a template which is literally what I use, and it's in the description of this video. It's completely free. You can just click that and you can go through that yourself. Number 11, implementation beats information. If I could have one or the other, I would just get rid of all the information and I would just start throwing mud at the wall and hoping something sticked. Because the truth is, you learn by doing things. Reading and listening to podcasts and consuming content, it's useful to a point, but if you're not implementing, you're not actually getting that real world feedback. So what you need to do is you need to make noise and you need to respond to the signal. So when you start creating stuff, you're going to start finding out what works. You're going to start finding out what doesn't work. You're going to find out who is attracted to you. You're going to find out who's not attracted to you. And that's all really valuable stuff that is going to help snowball your impact and thus your business and income. Personally, I started creating content before I knew anything about YouTube, but as I started creating, I started learning, and that's how I got to where I am. Number 12, reach does not equate to impact. Now this is kind of embarrassing, but I'm going to share it with you anyway. There was a period a few years ago where I was growing on the app TikTok, and because I live in Ireland and Ireland's a small place and TikTok is quite geographically oriented in terms of the algorithm, most of the people that were watching the videos were lived near where I live. I couldn't go out the door without some teenager saying, "You're the guy from TikTok." And one day I was in the supermarket getting some bananas or something, and these kids came up to me and asked to take my photo. It was in that moment that I realized that reach is silly. When it comes to building a business, you can reach a gazillion people, but if they're not the right people, then there's little opportunity to have big impact there. And you know, this is going to vary depending on like what industry you're in or whatever, but you know, even my music career, so I have a music career too, and I had a song that at the time, I think it probably had like 500 streams, but I got a message from somebody that was so heartfelt, and he said he was driving and he was really upset, and my song came on his radio and he just pulled over and cried and had this release. And to me, that is impact, even though only like a handful of people listen to it. When it comes to online business, like the impact you have is huge because you're working quite closely with clients usually, and you know, creating these transformations. So you don't need a lot of people in order to have a big impact. In fact, it often works the other way around. Number 13, leverage the superficial to accentuate your true value. Titles, thumbnails, we all hate them, but we gotta love them, because when we do, we get more people to listen to our valuable message that we're sharing, to our insights, to our lessons, to our stories. You know, it's the same with like camera quality or audio quality. We'd rather if we didn't have to do it, probably, for a lot of us. However, it does lend this sort of credibility, you know, to have nice audio, to have a nice camera setup. It's not necessary, but it certainly helps because it just bakes in that authority. So leverage that vanity. Know that vanity is never going to get you even halfway there. It will get you a little bit of the way there, but you have to have that authentic message. You have to have integrity in what you're sharing and what you're offering. Number 14, you're going to upset people. No matter what you do, people are going to hate you. People are going to love you. And it could be about your facial hair. It could be about your beard. They're the same thing. It could be about your hair. I've got a lot of flack for what I say, what I share, what I look like, and it sucks. But it's just a byproduct of having impact, is that you annoy people. Some people are going to dislike you because that's just where they're at. And don't waste energy trying to persuade them to believe otherwise, because I'm not fighting for someone's attention. I'm here to share, and if people want to come to that, beautiful. If they don't, beautiful. So I hope all of this was helpful for you. If you want a deep dive on how I actually built this business from the ground up, you can just check out this video right here. I share everything that you need to know. Peace.